These are the original 13 colonies in what was considered the New World at this time. These 13 colonies were under the rule of the British until 1776, and a lot of history occurred within these 13 colonies. Most of it not so good for certain groups of people. I want to tell you the story of one man in particular. So let's go back to 1706. A young man was brought to the New World from his home in West Africa. He was brutally captured and enslaved. He was purchased as a gift by the congregation of a church and given to the preacher of that church as a gift. The preacher's name was Cotton Mather. The preacher then renamed his new slave Onesimus. 10 years later, in about 1716, Onesimus shared some information with his master. He basically described the process that his people used back in his home in West Africa that is called variolation. What he described is that they would take pus from an infected person with smallpox, and they would put that pus into a cut, or they would inhale that pus, thereby inoculating the person and giving them immunity from that disease. This is something that Mather had never heard of, nor any other of the white settlers at this time. In 1721, in Boston, Massachusetts, which is where Onesimus lived, they found themselves at the height of a smallpox epidemic. At that time, the population of Boston was around 11,000 people, and there were a total of 850 people who died of smallpox by the end of the disease. But thanks to the medical knowledge of Onesimus, many Bostonians were able to survive the deadly virus because it was his introduction of variolation to Mr. Mather that helped to save a lot of people in Boston. When smallpox hit Boston, Mather promoted the process of variolation, but Mather's proposal was rejected among the white population because it came from a slave, and Mather was ridiculed publicly. He shared the information with many people, one of those being Dr. Zabdiel Boylston. Eventually, this physician, Dr. Boylston, tried the method. What he did was he took a needle and stuck it into the pustule of an infected person. He then scraped the needle on the skin of a healthy person. He ultimately inoculated 280 people with this method, including his 6-year-old son, who was the first person he inoculated, and then 2 of his slaves following. Of the 280 people he inoculated, only 6 died, as opposed to 5,889 non-inoculated people and 844 deaths. Now, Boylston and Mathers both received credit for this procedure. As a matter of fact, on Boylston's grave, it says he was the first to introduce inoculation in the U.S., which obviously is not the case. Racial biases prevented Onesimus from receiving the credit he deserved, but today he is recognized and acknowledged for his work. While many Africans were brutally taken from their homelands, they passed on valuable knowledge to the Americas, Britain, and Europe as a whole. And in 2016, Onesimus was finally recognized for his contribution by Boston Magazine. As a matter of fact, he was placed among the 100 best Bostonians of all time. The knowledge that Onesimus had of inoculating the human body in order to fight off infection, and sharing that and showing Mathers how to perform that act led to one of the first inoculation campaigns in America. To sum it all up, modern day vaccinations and inoculations would not be possible if it wasn't for the knowledge that Onesimus brought to the New World, but not only brought here, but also shared it. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.